Welcome to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where we feature top leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry with your host, Drew Hendricks. Now, let's get started with the show.
Today, I've got a special treat for you. As part of doing the podcast, Legends Behind the Craft, I get to interview some of the most intriguing producers and importers of wines and spirits. And today, we've got a special virtual tasting. I think you're going to enjoy it.
Hi, Drew.
How are you doing today? I've got the samples all sitting here waiting for us.
Wow, this is very exciting.
I'm super excited. Yeah,
great presentation.
Thanks. This is gonna be a first for me. I haven't done an online mezcal tasting, but this will go great.
Excellent.
So I was so stoked to find these, and after our talk, I've been dying to try them.
So have you tried I'm just curious, why did you pick out the ensemble from everything on the website? The one
Wasn't that the one you said came from the 40-year native agave?
Yes. Yeah. So it's two wild agaves, and Tepestate, they're both wild. Maybe not quite 40 years, but a long time. Tepestate could be up to maybe 30 years, like 25, 30 years. And then the Tobola takes less time, but still like 12 years.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we talked on the podcast, and I was like, I don't think I've ever had a native agave from 40 years. I had to have it. Now, so what's the difference? What order? So I've got the Espadín at the beginning. Is that the first one we should try?
Yeah. So I recommend starting with the Espadín, and then moving on to the Arroqueño. Mm-hmm. In the order you have them lined up, actually, that's pretty good.
And this is the Tobola, what's the difference between this one and this one?
So the name on the label is just the name of the agave varietal. So just like grapes, Pinot Noir, Merlot, those are just grape names.
Okay.
So similarly, these are just agave varietals. So they're all in the agave genus, but there's, so many different species of agaves.
Okay.
Each of them has different the personalities, sugar content. Terroir makes a huge difference. It's just like wine.
Sure. So this one's the Espadín. Made by Garcia Luis, Silverio Garcia Luis.
Silverio is, and then his wife Epifania. So I recommend starting with that, and then any leftovers. I recommend, since we start with this mezcal, we can come back to it at the end, because oftentimes the experience changes a lot. Because that first sip of mezcal is really just no matter how great the mezcal is, I think of it as a palate cleanser, just because it's high alcohol content. So it's a shock to the system if that's your first mezcal of the day.
Oh, yeah. It is the first of the day. I was holding off at 9 a.m. I'm like, I got to dive in, but I've been waiting.
Excellent. So yeah, I just recommend starting with Espadín and, tiny sips, and let it coat your palate, like swish it around a little bit. Sure. And
now I'm doing these out of old-fashioned glasses. What would you? This is what I had.
Old-fashioned glass is fine. If I drink, so if you have something small and shallow.
Oh, nice.
This is what they call a copita, just means a little cup. So any kind of small saucer-like.
Yeah.
That's got a white nose. So that's the old-fashioned glass is perfectly fine if you don't have something shorter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, this is my standard drinking glass.
Okay.
So I figure
that's perfectly fine.
I do have the whiskey glasses, but we'll go with
very nice.
We'll go with this one. So Espadín, this is your kind of your house mezcal.
So these four expressions is not all, but most a good representation of our flagship line, which came to the U.S., arrived end of 2018, and that's basically our first foray, representing these two producer families that are family friends, and also our inaugural partner producers coming to the U.S. market with Erstwhile.
And I didn't ask you on the first time, but you gotta explain this logo to me. Riding a dinosaur.
So we are Erstwhile is a women-owned, women-led company. In my capacity as founder and also the women in each of our partner producer families. And so that's one of our core values that I care about, and we write articles and are outspoken about as the occasion arises. So I want something in the logo to honor that. So I wanted a strong female presence.
I love it.
And I mean, there's in folklore, Mayahuel is the goddess. In Aztec folklore, Mayahuel is the goddess that's associated with agave, actually. So there is a history of female representation. But what I've noticed that when women shows up in mezcal logos, I won't point any names. They're often very sexualized.
Oh,
I've seen more than one logo.
Oh yeah.
If woman shows up in logo at all, it'd be like a silhouette with the boob. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to, not do that and just have a strong female presence in our logo.
I mean, charging with a stock and a velociraptor, you can't get much stronger than that.
It's called a quiote. It's the flowering stalk of the agave plant. So when it matures, there's a stalk that shoots out from the center. It flowers, it has seeds. That's how it reproduces. We're one of the ways it reproduces. And it's very beautiful. So just a warrior. She's charging into battle with the quiote. And the raptor it's our sense of humor. It's not very serious, but it's a play on our name Erstwhile from an earlier time. It's an Erstwhile.
Oh, yes. I like it. So this is a copper alembic.
Yes.
It's distilled in copper still.
Copper still. Double distillation. So everything we're trying, all the samples you have are all, it's two families, but what they do have in common is that they both use copper stills and it's double distillation. That's not necessarily the case because, often mezcal is often double distillation, but they could use different kinds of stills. For example, I just came back from Oaxaca and we're bringing in some new releases, new producers. And one of them only uses clay pots. Oh. And that's a hallmark for what they call ancestral mezcal because it's more old school, because but everything you have in front of you is copper still.
When I first poured it, there was a lot of smoke on the nose, but as it sits in the glass, like the fruit's really coming out.
Yeah. At first, just depends on what you have for lunch, how the weather is. The experience I get from the same mezcal varies from day to day, and it could come out as strong. It is almost 100 proof after all. Yeah. Other days it's very soft, but but it's in actuality I think it's a very balanced, elegant mezcal. But it may not necessarily come out like that at first because it's your step. So I just always recommend people let's come back to it at the end after your
I'm getting the balance on it. It is fantastic.
And then you may get some sweetness out of that. That's just the natural sweetness of agave because, everything we represent in Erstwhile, it's really just agave, natural fermentation and water. There's no extra flavoring added. Unless it's a pechuga, which is a different conversation. And that's just, we're bringing a bacon pechuga, for example. That's bacon being slow steamed in the still. But that's still a natural thing, right? We don't add like artificial flavoring. So the sweetness you taste is just the natural sugar in the agave. When you slow cook it, the sugar comes out. The natural yeast in the air eats up the sugar, creates alcohol, but there's still like the Espadín, the agave is got a nice sugar yield. So oftentimes, if it's a nice mezcal, you get a good amount of sweetness out of it.
Yeah, I'm getting it's. I mean, it's dry, but it has that kind of round, almost a comforting finish to it.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, this is delicious. Then in contrast, we're going to go into the
we can go into the Arroqueño. If you have a fresh, different glass.
I've got 4 different ones.
Great! I thought you got.
So we can kind of compare and contrast.
Exactly. So now we are moving on to a different producer family. So not Silverio and Epifania anymore. We're moving on to Juan and Hortensia, the late Juan and his wife Hortensia.
This is completely different.
Yep.
Very delicate.
Even the nose, yeah, you can see that.
Floral, delicate, almost a pear quality coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like an eau de vie that I'm smelling.
Yeah, exactly. This is
I don't think I've ever smelled a mezcal like this. This is amazing.
very unusual. This is definitely the most floral aromatic one in our.
Oh man, I drink a lot of grappa and eau de vies.
Oh yeah,
this is very similar. I mean, trying to describe it, it almost has a grape-like quality to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely get the floral. Very little smoke compared to the first one.
Absolutely. It's also lighter ABV. The Espadín is 49% alcohol, 48 point something, 49 depending on the batch. Mm-hmm. This Arroqueño is 44 point something, so almost like 88, 89 proof. So it's about 5% less alcohol than the Espadín.
Yeah, I mean, neither have been hot. Very sippable. Now this is a wild, so this is from a different strain of agave than what we're drinking.
Exactly. It's so Espadín is a very common varietal. It's the most common varietal of agave used to make mezcal. So when you go to a bar, you can feel free to look at the bottle where you go shopping. Most of them are Espadíns. Mm-hmm. That said, it doesn't mean they are. It's just because it's common and it's cultivated, so it's conducive to farming.
Sure.
Not most of the wild ones you can cultivate somewhat. Most of them are just wild grown. So the fact that it's farmed and it's got a good yield, like sugar yield, mm-hmm. make Espadín, those keep the prices down. So it's cheaper to buy the agave, and also it's cheaper to make it in the sense that you get a nice, good yield out of it.
Sure. Who produces this one?
That is the Hernandez family. So if you look at the back of that bottle, the ensemble that you ordered.
Oh, yes.
It's that same family. It's the same.
Oh, okay. So these two are the same.
These three, the Arroqueño Tobola.
Okay. So this is so we got one from Silvio Garcia Luis, and then these two we're doing with a single family, two different varietals.
Three different varietals. You actually have two small sample bottles and that bottle you ordered.
Awesome. Arroqueño. This is. I have to say, I resisted the temptation of sneaking a taste. So this is the first time I smelled these, and I'm shocked. This is amazing. This is an eye opener.
Yeah, the Arroqueño. It's a agave that takes a long time, maybe 20, 25 years for the agave to mature. So that's part of the reason why it's not very common to find 100% Arroqueño on the mm-hmm. market. Just in part because. Espadín, you can always buy Espadín. It's farmed. There's a ready supply.
Okay.
Arroqueño, because it's wild and it takes so long, it depends on if there's a mature, ripe Arroqueño that's available for harvest or for sale on the market, right? Oh. So that limits the availability of mezcal made from Arroqueño or any agave that takes so long.
Oh, okay.
And it's wild.
That makes sense. I'm dying to compare and contrast. So I'm just going to put a little in each one of my glasses so I can smell. So now this is this is Tobola?
Tobola.
Now let me see what we got going on. Oh, still bright and floral. I mean.
Yeah, for sure. This one's sweeter though. The Tobola, like Espadín, has higher sugar mm-hmm. content in the heart. Mm. And after trying these mezcals, if you go back to them on your own time, mm-hmm. you may like checking out the. So part of what I did these last 2 months was getting video content, like producer interviews, our new releases in the production in process.
Oh yes.
But we've added the videos to each corresponding mezcal page and also producer page.
Oh, awesome. So, I didn't notice that yet.
It's very new. It literally just happened. So I just want to point, for example, I can share my screen with you.
Sure.
Let's see. Because I think it's helpful. You can see my screen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So for example, We just, the new releases we added, they're not available in the market yet. But I'm just gonna pull up the Tobola, the one that we're on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So now we added video, photo tab, and production details. But this video right here on the left, that's Abel. So technically, this Tobola you're trying is from a different family, but he's holding a Tobola agave. That's the heart of the Tobola agave, right? So it's still, I think, good reference, even though it's technically not the same producer family.
Mira, esta piquita te lo estoy presentando. Esta se quiere decir que está muy buena. Tiene miel aquí. Por eso va a salir el maguey dulce. Porque tiene su miel. Está brotando acá en la penquita, en la hoja. Está brotando la miel. Quiere decir que sí está muy bueno el maguey. Va a salir el mezcal muy sabroso, muy dulce.
Wow.
Did you watch? Did you see that video? Okay.
Oh yeah, I did. That was great. You can see the
you can see that Tobola is a small agave. Some of them are really huge. They're they're heavier than me. They're like a few hundred pounds, the heart. But you can see the Tobola could be the size of a basketball. I
was surprised to see that. I had envisioned something probably twice the size.
Yeah, that's a small petite agave, and the heart is could be this big, and it's a high sugar content. So he's showing you, look, it's really ripe. It's so ripe. There's not honey, not like bee honey, but it's like the sugar coming, kind of bursting out of the
almost that sappiness. You can see that
sap, exactly. Yeah,
man, this is very delicate. There's almost a little bit more of a mineral quality to it. I'm not sure that's what I'm picking up, but I love it. Well, now you said honey. I'm getting honey, but
it is sweeter and it's fruitier. Oftentimes, Tobola has more fruit notes and sweeter because it's a high sugar content agave.
Okay.
And also just like the personality. Each agave has its own personality in terms of how it tastes.
I can definitely testify to that, having smelling them all side by side. And as we move into the Tepezate Tobola, that's a subvarietal of this. So this is made by the same Hernandez.
So, yes, it's the same family. So this is good because now you have 3 different examples of mezcal from the same family.
Yes.
So it's like a controlled experiment. You're trying 3 different mezcals. The only difference here is the agave. Everything else is the same producer, same stills, same hand of the maker, same natural fermentation, same yeast, same terroir. Right? Well, maybe not same terroir because you don't know where each agave is from. But point is, it's a pretty controlled experiment. So anything that's different for you with this mezcal, it's the agave speaking up, because the one you had before is 100% Tobola. This one is half and half. It's 50% one agave, the Tepezate, 50% Tobola, which you just had.
Okay. And what's the size of the Tepezate?
It's gigantic.
It's a big one.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah. It's a little more herbal character on the side. Doesn't have that same sort of honey nuance.
No, for sure. So Tepezate is very different agave. It's much drier on its own. It's got a pretty strong personality. It's like green, grassy, grass maybe. Dry notes, stone, pears. So that's kind of Tepezate on its own.
Okay.
With ensemble, it tones it down. Oftentimes, ensemble, when you put more, 2 or more different kind, ensemble just means an ensemble, a blend. Any agave can make an ensemble. So then the question is like, well, what's in this ensemble and what percentage? If you really want to get a better sense for it, because let's say if it's 90% one agave and 10% another agave, you can still call it ensemble, but you're mostly tasting the 90% agave, right? But in this case, it's half and half, so it's pretty balanced.
Oh yeah.
So you can probably notice that it's drier, like less sugar, less sweet than the 100% Tobola side by side. It's because Tepezate is much drier, has less sugar than Tobola.
Okay.
But any sweetness you taste in this, that's the Tobola.
Oh, what a treat. This is... Man, these are definitely sipping
Yeah,
mezcal.
absolutely.
There's a lot of. Oh. This is gonna be dangerous because I may have picked my new evening drink.
Excellent.
Now I'm going back to the first one just because this is strikingly different than these three.
Absolutely.
A little more of the smoke. Now it says that they're aged in natural fermentation in wood, but these are neutral wood barrels. Or do
they're just neutral wood barrels. They have not been used for something else. They were always used for mezcal, and it's just a big tub.
Sure.
But different producers will use different kinds of wood, and I'm sure that will make a difference. I can't tell you how much difference, but certainly it makes a difference in the flavor. No, so
like this woodiness though comes from the actual cooking of the agave. Where does the woodiness come from this?
In which one, Espadín?
The first one, the Espadín.
It could be the wood, but like I feel like it could. When you say wood, it could be the agave itself. It could be hand
like the smoke, like the
smoke. The smoke. A lot of the smoke is coming from how it's cooked.
That's what I was thinking, because these seem to be cooked a different way because you don't get that same sort of smoke.
Yeah, they are. Yes. So that's interesting, right? Because they're both cooked in a stone. Have you seen videos where I've seen in person the cooking process of agaves? So the stone oven is like a pit in the ground lined with stones and just a slow fire. There's a fire, wood, like a slow burning wood pit oven.
Sure.
So all of these are made with that same kind of oven. But yet you notice that Espadín, I think, arguably, relatively speaking, has more smoke than the other three. So I think that's also the hand of the maker coming through, because it's they all use the same kind of oven, right? But that said, like different producers they set up their oven differently. They control the fire differently. When the agave comes out, you cut out like burned pieces and charred pieces. So like all these little minutia things is each producer does it differently. Okay. But yeah, you taste more smoke in the Espadín.
This is more of the traditional, what I would think when I'm of a mezcal, I'm thinking of the Espadín.
Exactly.
Whereas these are more like an eau de vie, where it's very, very, the smoke is almost imperceptible in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Amazing. Now I'm using my, I'm kind of just bopping between the three, seeing the contrast. Arroqueño, I have to say, is the one I keep going back to. It's just delicate, just delicious. They're all delicious, but man. And then between these two, it was interesting to see what the tepezate brought to the table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so those two are good to compare and contrast side by side, because the only thing that's different is there's 50% tepezate.
Yeah, here you get this sweet honey, a little more of that, but then you get a little more of a mineral quality, like you were saying, the stones. They're all so delicate.
Yep. So I'm sharing my screen. You were asking about tepezate earlier, so I just pulled up the bottle that you ordered.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. I added some videos. That's not this producer family per se, but I think it's good reference material. Like here's Abel talking about what is ensemble, and him talking about the tobolas. I showed you that video.
That's fantastic the way you did that. You got the education right as part of the product.
Yeah, I really care about education, and I realized that we were missing video content. So that's part of why I was doing in Oaxaca the past 2 months. So then we also reorganized our website accordingly. But like there's so this is tobola. It's very close up, but it's a small agave. It looks like a rosette, wide leaves. And then this is a photo of a tepezate. So this is like I'm 5'8", so it's like almost 6 foot, just to give you a frame of reference of how tall this plant is.
It's so much more gnarled that most people have a vision of a blue agave from tequila. They've seen that on so many pictures. This looks so much more gnarled and ancient.
Absolutely. And they, depending on the varietal, they each look completely different.
Mhm.
So, and also it's, if you take the same varietal and you put it in different environments, different altitudes, we're all products of our environment. So they look completely different. So this is one example of a tepestate. Here's another tepestate. See, it looks like an octopus. It's like sloped over. It's not upright.
Oh yeah. Is that because it's flowered and it's dying, or it's just kind of?
It's not dying. I'm not sure why it's like this. I assume it has to do with I see this with trees in my backyard here in Brooklyn. Like when plants are deprived of sunshine, they will do whatever it takes to get the maximum sunshine. I suspect that's a big part of what's going on here. There may be this is also a slope. You can't tell from the slope, but this is like a steep slope.
Oh, so it's kind of growing towards the light.
Yeah, it's growing toward the light. I suspect it's a huge part of what's going on here because this is a very shady area. It's like covered with brambles.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably. Right now, I'm listening to the audiobook, The Secret Life of Trees. I'm learning a lot about that, but I'm seeing like maybe it was, it felt the upward growth and it's kind of bending out.
Yeah.
Because I have some agave in our backyard and they're kind of doing the same thing, kind of growing sideways.
Growing sideways.
That's fantastic. And that's a big plant.
It's a big one, yeah. So how was your vacation? Where did you go?
I went on a couple. I was up in, we went rafting down the Rogue River. It was a group of musicians and chefs. We had a 40-inch paella pan strapped to the back of the raft.
A 40-foot what?
We had a 40-inch paella pan strapped to the back of our raft.
Paella? Oh,
paella. They brought in mussels and everything, and the chefs would cook for us every night, and then the musicians would play. So we rafted down the Rogue River in Oregon. So
you would catch your own seafood from the river?
Yeah, they brought it. It was all on ice chests. But it was fantastic to be sitting there. We're just relaxing. We finished rafting all day, and then have the chefs be out on the river cooking for us was fantastic.
Wow, that sounds exceptional.
And then they had the wineries that came in and they paired the wines to the food, and then the musicians played for us.
It sounds amazing.
I was not deprived.
It doesn't sound like it. That's great.
Oh, it was fantastic. And then I hung out with my dad and my sister on the Russian River in Sonoma for a week after that.
That sounds really lovely.
I sound like all I do is go on vacation, and then I'm here drinking mezcal.
Awesome.
I cannot complain. Oh, this is great.
Is the Espadín different now that you've come back to it?
It is. I mean, it's very balanced, and I like the smoke, and I see it in contrast. I almost see this they're all sippable for sure, but I see this more as like a mixed. Yeah. It would add something a little something different than these to a cocktail. Yeah,
Espadín is great for sipping. I also love cocktails, so Espadín is definitely the one for cocktails.
Yeah, I can see that. This one, I feel like you just want to sip it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just man, very, very good. What a treat. So the bacon one, you got to tell me. So they're smoking the bacon on top of the.
Yeah. Do you, Levy, do you want to see a video intro, a sneak preview of bacon pechuga?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I got to see this thing.
We recently started a YouTube channel. But so it's also on the YouTube channel, but let's pull
bacon pechuga.
I believe this is from the same family. So just background, this is the Hernandez family.
Oh yes.
Behind the Arroqueño, the one you ordered in the Tobola. But it's the same family at the same time. It's a new chapter for the family. So when these mezcals were made, these were Juan Hernandez made these. Juan very sadly passed away fall of last year.
Oh.
Now this family is all women run mezcal distillery. Is his wife Hortensia, and then his daughters. He's got 3 daughters, but there's one daughter, Lydia, who's actually running the distillery, and that's in charge. So this bacon pechuga, the idea was mine, but it's obviously I'm not the mezcal making brain expert. They are. So this is my concept is like, this is going to be an all women collaboration. So it's the same family, but it's also just a new chapter for the family.
Awesome.
And new producer, because Juan is no longer with us.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a small release. It's a experiment because I wasn't sure how it's going to turn out. No one has ever made bacon pechuga to the best of my knowledge. This is all.
What was your vision for it?
My vision for it is that I love bacon, and I'm constantly thinking about what. So just background on pechugas. Pechuga technically means chicken breast, but in the context of mezcal, it's more referring to a technique. It's specifically, it involves hanging chicken breast or whatever meat you want, suspending in the still. And it's being slow steamed. So you don't throw it into the mash, into the still. It's suspended. And it's, I'm not a food chemist, but something definitely happens on the molecular level when you slow steam protein during the distillation process. And oftentimes people add fruit to it. So the flavor definitely incorporates the fruit, the meat. It's often served at, weddings or birthdays or festivities, funerals. It's a special thing. Oftentimes, not always, oftentimes it's triple distillation. So it's an extra distillation. So it's even a little more refined. And so that's pechuga. So you can make a pechuga out of anything. It doesn't have to be chicken breast, right? I've had quail pechuga. I've had rabbit pechuga. And
you're gonna you eat the actual the breast. You're not making it to drink something.
You can if you want. It's just it's steamed.
Yeah, but the idea is to get the mezcal to taste like
the idea to add something to the mezcal.
I can definitely envision bacon. I couldn't imagine chicken breast adding much to the mezcal though.
It does add something. So I've had all kinds of pechuga. So I'm always thinking, I have pechuga ideas because you can make anything. You can make pechuga with anything.
Sure.
Right. So I'm like, I love bacon.
Yeah.
And no one has ever made a bacon pechuga to the best of my knowledge. So let's try it.
That sounds fantastic.
So let's see. You can see my screen, right?
Oh yeah.
I think this is the preview trailer.
Hola a todos, el día de hoy nos encontramos en Santiago, Mazatlán, la capital mundial del mezcal, y nos encontramos en el palenque artesanal que se llama La Curva. El día de hoy se está horneando maguey. Este es un lote que está destinado a hacer ciertos experimentos para nuestra marca Erstwhile.
Vamos a hacer un proceso de destilado con tocino y en la canasta de carrizo se le pone el tocino y ya se le va a colocar estamos preparando las frutas para un destilado. Tenemos piña, el mango, la guayaba, que son las frutas de la temporada de este mes. Y esas son las frutas que vamos a poner, son las frutas que más tienen sabor y sueltan el jugo y dan sabor muy rico al mezcal. Destinamos hoy que es muy diferente a la del pavo, mucha diferencia, el sabor, tiene el sabor al cremosito, necesita el mezcal, muy bueno, en la fábrica de mezcal.
Fantastic.
That's our bacon pechuga teaser.
Man, I've been teased. That sounds fantastic, and I see that. She was like, "This is very different than our turkey pechuga."
Yeah, typically they make turkey. When they make pechuga, they make turkey. This is definitely, it's much fattier than turkey.
Mm-hmm. That sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm probably, it's probably bad, but I can envision a Bloody Mary with the bacon pechuga. But
sounds great.
But it's probably more on the sipping side. What a treat! I've been going back as we were watching this between the regular Tabola and then the blend, and the fruit on this just is starting to sing when you compare and contrast the two.
Sure.
But then the grappa-like nuances of this one, I forget that, the Arroqueño.
The Arroqueño.
I hate to say I have a favorite, but I think the Arroqueño is my favorite.
Arroqueño is your favorite? Nice.
But you got to have a favorite. If you don't have an opinion.
That's true. You do need to have a favorite.
I think mostly just because of the surprise. Man. Mm-hmm. So good. What? So pechuga. And then, so I was seeing this is 2017.
It was, it's distilled. When it was distilled, it was late 2017. So now it's been sitting in glass for 4 years now.
Mm-hmm. But it'll continue as long as it's preserved correctly. You're fine.
Yeah, mezcal doesn't go bad. I mean, I'm sure if you like put it directly under the sun and just leave it there, it'll probably go bad. But if you just store it, in the shade like a normal person, it doesn't go bad.
That's great. So you're in the States for a while now, or are you heading back?
I'm back. I may go back later this year. So we have new releases coming. Pretty exciting line. So, the Erstwhile model is that everything is just limited. So, and changing. So nothing is coming back. So everything you have in front of you, that's it. I mean, it's still available, but there's the production size for these is on the back of each bottle is a few hundred bottles per release.
Yeah.
Right. So, but we're not bringing these back anymore. So we have a 2021 line coming, and it's all excellent. It's all really great stuff, but no duplicates.
Will the pechuga bacon be available for the Taste of Mexico?
In San Diego?
The one in San Diego or San Francisco? I'm going to miss the one in San Diego, unfortunately.
Yeah, you told me. That's a good question. I have a small sample with me. There's only 300 liters. I may bring a sample. Like if you come, obviously I'll get you to try it. But it may just
under the table
for friends. I may not. I'm gonna hide. Usually, there's something. Sometimes I hide something behind the table or behind a poster. I'm like, this is not for public consumption. It's only for people who appreciate it. Because it's only 300 liters.
That's not much. That's what 5 cases.
That's like that's 400 bottles. We're talking about bottles this size.
Oh yeah, I was thinking 400. Man, you're definitely doing limited production. Man, thank you so much for walking me through these.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I was so stoked to get these. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
What an eye opener, man. I'm going to help promote this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, hopefully this has converted you to the joys of mezcal somewhat. And
I was already converted, but now I'm sold.
Great. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Yuan.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.